Let's recap what we've learned so far on doing math calculations with exponents. First, when we have exponents and we're simply just adding the terms, you can only add or subtract if the bases and the exponents are the same. For this particular example, the base is x squared y. 5 is not a part of the base. 3 is not a part of the base. Those can be different, but the variables and the exponents have to be exactly the same. So you have 5 of these objects here, and you're adding 3 more of the same type of objects. So 5 plus 3 is 8. X squared y. And that's it. It's done. It's through. Can't do anything else with it. Then we moved on and we began learning about multiplying with exponents. When you multiply with exponents, the bases do not have to be the same. The powers do not have to be the same. But what we found was you're only going to multiply like things. The 5 and the 3, the x and the x, the y and the y. If it's all multiply, everything's going to get put together when you get the final answer. So first we analyze. We have a number here and a number here. X here, y here, y here. Then we regroup. So I'm going to put the numbers beside each other, the x's beside each other, and the y's beside each other. So now I have 5 times 3, x squared times x squared, y times y. And remembering that when we have a variable or a number and there's no exponent written, the exponent is 1. The rule says when we multiply with exponents that we add the exponents. We don't have to worry about that with the 5 and the 3. It's just 5 times 3 is 15. Now we're going to have x's, and it's 2 plus 2, which is 4. And we're also going to have y's. Power of 1, power of 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. So we analyzed, we looked through the whole thing to see what we had. We reordered to get everything next to each other so we didn't miss anything. And then we simplified, which means go ahead and carry out the multiplication. The answer is 15, x to the 4th, y to the 2nd, and that is done. It's in order, it's finished. But what we're going to do today is we are going to learn the power rule. What in the world is the power rule? The power rule says if you have something that has an exponent and it gets raised, let me change that to an a there, and it gets raised to another exponent, then the solution is going to be the first power times the second power. These powers will be numbers, so it will be this number times this number. For example, x squared raised to the 3rd power means x to the 2 times 3, which means x to the 6th. And that's done. Let's see why it is that way. What does this mean? We're going to start on the very outside exponent. What this means is you take this and you multiply it to itself this many times. So this means x squared times x squared times x squared. And what does this mean? This means you take this object and you multiply it to itself this number of times. So for each one of these, we have x times x, x times x, x times x. So we have x's, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. X to the 6th power. So with the power rule, it can look any number of ways. It can look like the example that we just did, x squared, in parentheses with the 3 on the outside. There could be no parentheses at all, and it could be written like this right here. It means the same thing in either case. We most often will see the power rule when we have multiple things on the inside of the parentheses. Now we have this being raised to the 4th power. Now this 2 on the inside, this exponent, only belongs to the x. It does not belong to the 2. The 2 has its own power, which is 1. Both of these are going to get raised to the 4th power. The power rule again is the 1st power times the 2nd power. The power on the inside of the parentheses times the power on the outside of the parentheses. So here we go. Here's how we would do this. Start with the 2. The power of the 2 is 1. Now multiply that times the power on the outside. Then we have the x. The power of the x is 2. And multiply it by the power on the outside. It's sort of like the distributive property. Only you're only distributing to the exponents. 1 times 4 is 4. So we have 2 to the 4th power. 2 times 4 is 8, so x to the 8th power. Then we can go ahead and complete this. 2 to the 4th power is 16. X's to the 8th power. Let's try another one. 5. X to the 3rd, y to the 2nd, z. We're going to raise this to the 3rd power. So it would be 5 to the 1 times 3, x to the 3 times 3, y to the 2 times 3, and z to the 1 times 3. This, instead of regrouping, it's like regrouping. We're just organizing our operations here. So we analyze, organize, and now simplify. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 2 times 3 is 6. 1 times 3 is 3. So the answer is 5 to the 3rd power, x to the 9th, y to the 6th, z to the 3rd. We can take this one step farther by completing this. 5 times 5 is 25, times 5 is 125. X to the 9th, y to the 6th, z to the 3rd. How can it get any more difficult, you might ask? Well, it's not really a difficult process to do. It can get more involved, though, when you start putting coefficients on the outside of the parentheses, such as this. 4 times negative 2x y to the 3rd, all being raised to the 2nd power. What to do, what to do. Here we have a negative number. We have a coefficient on the outside of the parenthesis. We've got powers on the inside, powers on the outside. Remember, PEMDAS says do the parentheses first. So we look on the inside of the parentheses, there's nothing to do. There's no math that needs to be completed. Then we move to the exponents. Here's the exponent. We need to distribute this power to the inside of this parenthesis. So the 4 doesn't change. The negative 2 to the first power times the second power. The x to the first power times the second power. The y to the third power times the second power. Now going one more step. Still not ready to do anything with that 4 yet. It's 4 to the negative 2 squared, x squared, y to the 6th. We're almost ready to multiply with the 4. Here's math that we can do now on the inside of the parentheses. Negative 2 squared. Now if you were to do that in your calculator would tell you the answer is negative 4. It is not negative 4. This means negative 2 times negative 2, which is positive 4. So we have 4 times 4, x squared, y to the 6th. And now we're back to multiplying with exponents. I analyzed. I have 4 times all of this. The only thing this 4 is going to change on the inside of the parentheses is this other 4. You can only multiply like things together. So the final answer would be 4 times 4 is 16. I have no more x's to increase the x's, no more y's to increase the y's. This is done. It's finished. It's through. Nothing else that we can do.